This is a 3D printed vault, and this is the key for the 3D printed lock inside. If you've ever thought to yourself, I really want a safe to store my valuables, but I want to make it myself, and I don't care that it's made out of plastic, and I don't care that somebody with a basic toolbox can break into it in under a minute, then this is a project for you. And while it's true that a hammer could break into this with one swing, I would be willing to bet that it would take a competent lockpicker to get this thing open without destroying it. And just like all of my other projects, I'm releasing the files for free so you can make one of these for yourself if you want. From the beginning of the design process, this has been engineered to simplify the assembly process as much as possible, and every piece of the vault can be printed without supports, so you can make this out of PETG no problem. The key itself does require supports, but organic supports make it easy, so I've done a bunch of tests and it works well. So without further ado, let me show you how this goes together. The design of this entire project revolves around the lock itself, so I want to take a moment to explain how it works. This is called a lever tumbler lock, and this design has been around since the late 18th century, so it's an old lock design, but it's relatively simple and it doesn't require a lot of moving parts, so it lends itself well to 3D printing. I printed this in PETG because there are some flexible moving arms, and it will be more durable if you do it out of PETG. I have an unassembled lock here so I can show you how it works. This is the lock body and this is the bolt. So you just add the bolt into that slot and it can slide back and forth. I have the key here, and as you can see there are 4 little teeth on it. And this outer tooth is the one that's actually going to interact with the bolt. That outer tooth is going to slip into that little recess in the bolt and then push it over. And it will push it back the other way. So we can turn this and it will move the bolt back and forth. But we need to secure the bolt somehow. So next I'm going to add this frame on top of the bolt, just like that. And then I'm going to take one of these pieces, which are the levers. This one has a number 1 on it, which indicates it's the first one to go in. And I'm just going to slide it onto this little peg in the frame. This lever has a little cutout in it, and as you can see there's a protrusion coming off the bolt that's going through that hole. And the way we get this bolt to move is to lift up this lever to just the right height so the bolt can scoot through that little opening, and then when this drops back down, it's going to secure it in the other position. Looking at the key again, there are 4 teeth, and the second one in is sized just right so that when we insert the key and turn it, it will lift up that first lever to just the right height, and then the first tooth is going to push the bolt through, and then everything's going to drop back down. Just like that. Next, I'm going to add another spacer over the top of the first lever. It'll slide in just like that. And then I'm going to take lever number 2 and add it into the lock. Then I'll take this final spacer, put it on, and then take lever number 3 and put it on. So that is a fully assembled lock. If we give it a test here with the key, you'll see that all 3 levers will lift up to just the right height and the bolt's going to pass through. With the lock assembled, we're ready to get into the vault door itself, and we're going to start off by taking this piece, which is the door frame, and we're going to glue this lock onto the back of it. And I've left a wide brim around the edge of this, so you can just add some glue around here and then just press everything together. Okay, a little time has passed and the glue is set, so the lock is now secured to the back of this door frame. And I want to point out that there's this little slot in the front of the door, and right now you can see the orange bolt from the lock is poking through. So that means the door would be locked, but if we take our key and twist it, that bolt goes away. So that slot is actually how the gears of the vault interface with the lock. So this is the center gear, and we're not going to put this on until later, but I want to show you how this works. So there's a little arm extending off the bottom of this, and that little arm is going to slot into the little opening in the door frame. Put this whole thing over. If we rotate this gear all the way counterclockwise, we can take our key and then lock the door. So the bolt just slid over, and now you can't rotate this. The next step is to glue in a series of 5mm metal dowels into these little holes. And we're going to use 6 40mm dowels and 6 20mm dowels. These holes are not perfect cylinders. They actually have a little opening around the bottom, and that's going to allow glue to squeeze out. So the hope is that you can just put glue into these little openings, and then when you slide in the dowel, the glue will go down into those little openings rather than trying to squeeze back up. Okay, I've put in all of the metal dowels and the glue is still setting, so I'm going to take this piece here, which is actually the frame cap that goes over the whole thing, and I'm going to put this on top, and this is going to hold all the dowels while the glue dries. Okay, so it's been a few minutes and the glue should be all set, so I'm going to remove this frame. So with our door frame all ready to go, we are prepared to start adding gears. And I'm going to start by adding this big center gear here. And this thing prints in 2 pieces, but I glued it together earlier just using super glue. And I'm going to connect it to the door using this bearing. I've used these bearings on past projects. This will just snap into the underside of this gear. Just like that. Make sure it's pushed all the way in. And when you do that, you're going to be left with this little slot. And that slot is meant to align with this little peg when you insert the gear. So I'm going to take my gear with the bearing in it, make sure that the slot is aligned with the peg on the frame, and then I'm going to push it down. So it should only be able to rotate a few degrees just like this. So this looks good. Next, we're going to take one of these little gears and I'm just going to slide it onto one of these dowels. Now, when I rotate the center gear, you'll see it's going to rotate the smaller gear. So I'm going to rotate this center gear counterclockwise as far as it'll go. And that's important because next we're going to take this bolt here and add it in. This bolt prints in 2 pieces, which I glued together earlier. It's pretty simple. They just snap together. And on the bottom of this bolt, there's a little leg sticking off, and that is meant to sit in this little track in the door frame. So again, we want the center gear to be as counterclockwise as it can go, and then we're going to insert the bolt in the extended position, just like that. So if we rotate the center gear clockwise, it will retract the bolt, and then if we go the other way, it will extend it. So it's really important that you get this orientation correct. And now we're just going to go around the perimeter and add in the rest of the gears and the rest of the bolts. Okay, so now that I'm confident that all of these gears work smoothly, I am going to take this cap again and I'm finally going to glue it down permanently. Alright, so I've added glue into each of these recesses here, and now I'm going to add it onto the door, and I'm going to retract the bolts for this a little bit easier. Okay, here we go. Okay, so it's been a few minutes and this door frame is nice and dry. All of that works well, so now we're going to prepare the top cap, which is going to go on and hold the last few gears in place. For this project, I wanted the front cover to be clear so that you can see all the interesting gears on the inside, so I had to get some CNC cut acrylic, and that's where today's video sponsor comes in, PCBWay. I've ordered parts from PCBWay in the past, and the process is very simple. I just designed a piece in Fusion 360 and uploaded the step file to PCBWay. Then, less than a week later, the acrylic was sitting on my desk exactly as I had designed it. While I was at it, I also got a few keys 3D printed out of metal. This is stainless steel and this is aluminum. They feel so much better than the plastic keys, and I especially like the weight of the stainless steel key. The acrylic is an optional addition to the vault, but if you decide to print one for yourself, I definitely recommend ordering an acrylic panel from PCBWay. Use the link in the description to sign up. Thank you to PCBWay for supporting this video. These 2 pieces are the frames for the acrylic cap. I have my piece of acrylic right here, which has a few holes cut out, and that's where some dowels are going to pass through. And then at the top and bottom, there's this little protrusion, and that is going to slot into a little recess on this cap frame piece, just like that. Okay, I've delicately added glue around the perimeter there. So I'm going to take my piece of acrylic and get it aligned. Alright, that's pushed in. Might need to do this off camera because this is important and I can't see very well. Okay, so I have my top cap here with the acrylics in there and everything is nice and dry. So I'll set that to the side. And now we're going to add in the last few gears. So again, like we've done in the past, we want to make sure these bolts are extended when we do this step. So as we did earlier, we're going to take these gears and put them in with this arm creating a vertical line. Going to do it in both directions and give it another test. All right, that looks good. Okay, so I've added glue around the perimeter there. Okay. Once again, look around the perimeter, and if you see any glue squeeze out, then just scrape it away. The cleaner these joints are, the better this is going to look. Alright, so I've waited a little bit and this door is all nice and dry. The cap is sealed and everything looks really good. The last few pieces we need to add are this hinge and this little handle piece, and these will just slide onto these metal dowels. Okay, so you can see I've added some glue around those parts that'll make contact with the frame, and I've added glue into each of these holes. So now I'm just going to slide this onto the metal dowels and push everything down. Okay, so the hinge is on there, and now I'm going to take this handle piece and do the same sort of thing. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue into these holes and then slide it on. Now we just need to add this center gear and then this cap to hold it in place. I added some 12mm metal dowels into this center piece earlier, and I didn't film it, but you can just glue them in. It's pretty straightforward. So for this step, we need to make sure that the bolts are fully extended, and it's really important to get this gear inserted correctly. So I would definitely recommend putting it in and testing it out to make sure you have things right. The easiest way to do it is to put it in and make sure that these bolts get extended all the way, as far as they can go. And then I would take out the gear and lock the door. So I just locked it, and you can see that orange bolt pop back into place. So now I'm going to take this handle and put it in, and I'm going to put it in with this arm sort of in this region facing like 3 or 4 o'clock. So when you put it in, it's going to land on the bottom of the door frame. And then I'm going to slowly rotate it counterclockwise until it lands in the little slot. So that arm just dropped down into the lock, and I know that it's in the right spot. So it dropped in and I can't rotate it. Now, if I put in the key, unlock the door, then I can rotate it. If I relock it, then it gets stuck. So that's good. You really want to make sure that's correct, otherwise this project may be ruined. Alright, so I've added some glue in there, and now I'm going to reinsert my center gear. Follow the same process, rotate it counterclockwise. There, so it's locked in. And I'm just going to do one last test. Okay, that passed. So now I'm going to add this cap, get those arms into the little holes, and push it down. So there we go. I need to let this glue dry one more time and this door is complete. So this is the box piece itself, and it's obviously the biggest print of this entire project. This took about 24 hours to print. And one of the biggest issues I've had with my past vault projects is that the door weighs a lot, and when the door is open and the box is empty, the box just wants to tip forward because the center of gravity gets pushed so far out. So for this project, I went on Amazon and I found these. These are steel nuggets, which are meant for auto repair somehow. I don't even know how they're used, but they're perfect for adding weight to 3D prints. Okay, so I've added in all 12 of those weights, and the adhesive strips on the weights themselves should be enough to hold them in place, but I've also added a ton of JB Weld over the top. And I'm going to add this cap on top of all of it, and I hope that everything will just sort of glue together. So, okay, so the weights and the little cover are all dry, so now I am going to take this little shelf, and that just glues on that ledge right there. Okay, so the weights are installed in the box, and so is the shelf, and now I am going to install this jam piece on the cap. So this jam actually came in two pieces. This is called the door stop, and I glued it in earlier. And I made this brim wide, so you really want to be generous with your glue here. When this thing is done, it's going to be sitting like this, and all of the weight of the door is going to be pulling away from the face of the box. So you want to make sure that this is a particularly strong connection. So I have a lot of JB Weld here, and I'm just going to lather it onto that little ledge in the box. Okay, so you can see I've added glue all the way around, and I was pretty generous with it. So this joint is less prone to having glue squeeze out, and if you can't tell, I'm super paranoid about that, but I'm less worried here. So I'm going to take my jam piece, just put it on the top. So this door is all complete, all the pieces are in there. I've tested it a bunch of times, but I'll do it one more time. You can extend the bolts, lock it, just like that. It's nice and secure. Then unlock it, and that's perfect. So this connects to the box with the hinge here, and you want to retract all the bolts, and you can drop the door right into the box like that. And then I'm going to take two dowels. So these are 30mm metal dowels, and just drive them into this hinge. It can be a little tricky to get it lined up. Alright, so there we go. Wow. This thing weighs a ton, but it feels great. It feels very premium. It came out very well, if you ask me. So there you have it. This thing is done. This weighs 3.5 pounds, which is pretty ridiculous. At the beginning of this video, I said that this had been engineered to simplify the assembly process as much as possible, and after watching this video, you might think I'm crazy for saying that, but given the level of intricacy in this design, I think the assembly is relatively straightforward, and I'm really proud of how this came out. If you want to build one for yourself, you can get the files on Printables and MakerWorld. And if you see them anywhere else, please let me know, because I'm only uploading them to Printables and MakerWorld, and I've dealt with imposters in the past, so please keep an eye out and let me know if you see it anywhere else. So anyway, if you're still watching, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel if you're interested. My name is Rocco. Thanks for watching.